A woman abandoned by the river. A Comanche warrior haunted by grief. Their worlds were never meant to collide until fate intervened. What brought them together, and what will they do when the past comes looking for them again? Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you like the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. Emma Whitfield never imagined her life would change so drastically in a single day. The year was 1875, and the small settlement of Riverton, Texas had been her home for merely 3 weeks when tragedy struck. The stagecoach carrying her husband, James, was ambushed by outlaws just 15 miles outside of town. The news arrived with the sole survivor, a wounded driver who managed to escape on horseback. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Sheriff Miller said, removing his hat as he stood at her doorway. "They took everything. Your husband tried to stop them, ... His voice trailed off, but his eyes conveyed what words: COULDN, single quotes D. Emma stood motionless, the hot summer air suddenly feeling cold against her skin. "Are you certain?" she whispered, clutching the doorframe for support. "Yes, ma'am." The driver identified James from the photograph in his pocket watch. That night, Emma packed what little she had into a wagon she'd borrowed from her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. With no family in Riverton and nothing tying her to this place of heartbreak, she decided to journey west to San Antonio, where her cousin lived. "You can't travel alone," Mrs. Patterson warned, her weathered face lined with concern. "These parts ain't safe for a woman on her own." "I have no choice," Emma replied, checking the small revolver James had insisted she learn to use. "I have nothing left here." The first day of travel was uneventful, the Texas landscape stretching endlessly before her. Emma followed the river, knowing it would lead her to larger settlements where she could ask for directions. As the sun began to set, she made camp near the riverbank, tethering her horse to a nearby tree. That night, as she slept fitfully under her wagon, voices woke her. 3 men, clearly drunk, had spotted her campfire. "Well, what do we have here?" the tallest one drawled, kicking at her supplies. Emma reached for her revolver, but one of them was quicker, wrenching it from her grasp. "Looks like we found ourselves some company for the night, boys," he sneered. Emma fought with all her strength, but they were too strong. The beating came first, punishment for her resistance. Through swollen eyes, she watched as they ransacked her wagon, taking her supplies, her wedding ring, even the locket containing her parents' portraits. "What do we do with her?" the youngest asked, eyeing Emma warily. "Leave her," the leader decided. "She's seen our faces. The river's rising from the storm upriver. Let nature take care of our problem." They dragged her to the muddy riverbank, half conscious and bleeding. Emma felt the cold water lapping at her feet as darkness enveloped her. Miles away, Running Wolf rode silently through the darkness. The Comanche warrior had been tracking buffalo for his small hunting party, but his mind was elsewhere. It had been 2 years since the raid on his village, 2 years since he'd lost his wife and young son to the U.S. cavalry's bullets. Though he continued to live among what remained of his people, a piece of him had died that day. The thunder rumbled overhead as rain began to fall. Running Wolf knew the river would be swelling soon. He guided his horse toward higher ground, following a path that ran parallel to the water. The first light of dawn was breaking when he spotted something unusual on the riverbank, a splash of pale fabric against the dark mud. Drawing closer, he saw it was a woman, white, badly beaten, and partially submerged in the rising water. His first instinct was to ride on. The white settlers had brought nothing but suffering to his people. What was one more dead white person in this land soaked with Comanche blood? But something made him pause. Perhaps it was the memory of his wife, Morning Star, who had believed that all life was sacred. Perhaps it was the small silver cross still clutched in the woman's hand, reminding him of his son's curiosity about the white man's God. Running Wolf dismounted, checking for signs of life. The woman's pulse was faint, but present. Her face was bruised beyond recognition, but she was breathing. With a deep sigh, he lifted her onto his horse. The hunting party would have to wait. This woman needed help if she was to survive. "The spirits have placed you in my path," he murmured in his native tongue. "I do not know why, but I will not turn away from their message." As the rain fell harder, Running Wolf led his horse toward a small cave he knew was nearby. There, sheltered from the storm, he would decide what to do with this unexpected burden, this woman who represented everything he had learned to hate, yet who now depended entirely on his mercy. Darkness, pain, these were Emma's first sensations as consciousness slowly returned. Her eyelids felt heavy, swollen shut. The taste of copper lingered in her mouth. She tried to move, but every muscle screamed in protest. "Be still," a deep voice commanded. Emma froze. The voice was male, accented in a way she couldn't place. She forced her eyes open, wincing at the effort. Through blurred vision, she made out the stone ceiling of what appeared to be a cave. A small fire crackled nearby, casting dancing shadows. "Where am I?" she croaked, her throat raw. "Safe," came the reply. "For now." Emma turned her head slightly, ignoring the pain that shot through her neck. A man sat cross-legged by the fire. His long black hair was braided, his copper skin marked with intricate patterns. A Comanche warrior. Terror seized her heart. "Are you going to kill me?" she whispered. Running Wolf regarded her steadily. "If that was my intention, I would have left you to the river." He rose and approached, kneeling beside her. Emma flinched as he reached toward her, but he merely offered a crude wooden cup filled with water. "Drink," he instructed, slowly. Emma hesitated, then took the cup with trembling hands. The water was cool and soothing against her parched throat. "My name is Running Wolf," he said as she drank. "I found you by the river 2 days ago." "2 days?" Emma's voice cracked in disbelief. "Your injuries are severe. Fever took you. I thought you would die." Emma tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her ribs. Running Wolf gently pressed her back down. "Broken ribs," he explained. "Many bruises, cut on your head." His English was stilted but clear enough. "Why?" Emma asked, her eyes searching his face. "Why help me?" Running Wolf stared into the fire, silent for so long Emma thought he wouldn't answer. "I do not know," he finally admitted. "Perhaps the spirits guided me." That night, as Emma drifted between sleep and wakefulness, she heard Running Wolf singing softly in his native tongue. The melody was haunting, filled with a sorrow that transcended language. Though she couldn't understand the words, she felt their weight. Morning brought a clearer head. Emma examined her surroundings more carefully. The cave was small but dry. Her tattered dress had been replaced with a simple buckskin shift. She tried not to think about who had changed her clothes. Running Wolf returned from outside, carrying a rabbit he had snared. Without a word, he began preparing it for cooking. "My name is Emma," she offered, breaking the silence. "Emma Whitfield." Running Wolf nodded but didn't look up from his task. "I was traveling to San Antonio," she continued. "My husband was killed by outlaws. I had nowhere else to go." "The men who hurt you," Running Wolf said, skewering the meat. "They were white, like you." It wasn't a question, but Emma nodded anyway. "They took everything. White men take everything," he replied, his voice flat. "This is what they do." Emma watched as he roasted the rabbit over the fire. "You hate my kind. Your kind killed my wife, my son." Running Wolf's jaw tightened. 2 summers ago, soldiers came to our village while the men were hunting. They did not spare women or children." Emma's heart sank. "I'm sorry. Your sorrow changes nothing." They ate in silence. The rabbit was tough but flavorful, seasoned with herbs Running Wolf had gathered. Emma managed a few bites before exhaustion claimed her again. When she woke, the fire had died down to embers. Running Wolf sat at the cave entrance, staring out at the night sky. Emma watched him, this man who had every reason to let her die, yet had chosen to save her. "Where will you take me?" she asked softly. Running Wolf turned. "You are not well enough to travel." "But when I am?" He was quiet for a moment. "There is a trading post 2 days' ride from here." "The man there, Davis, is fair to my people. He will help you reach your destination. And until then, you rest. You heal." He turned back to the night sky. "And you hope that the men who hurt you do not come looking to finish what they started." The next morning, Running Wolf helped Emma outside the cave. The effort left her breathless and weak, but the fresh air and sunlight were worth it. They sat on a flat rock overlooking a small valley. In the distance, Emma could see the river that had nearly become her grave. "It is rising still," Running Wolf observed. "The rains continue upstream." Emma shuddered, remembering the cold water lapping at her body as consciousness had faded. "I thought I was going to die." "Most would have," he said simply. "You are strong, Emma Whitfield." Something in the way he said her name made Emma look at him. For a brief moment, she saw beyond the stoic exterior to the pain he carried. They were both survivors of a cruel world, both adrift in their own way. "Tell me about your son," she said gently. Running Wolf stiffened, and Emma thought she had overstepped. But then his shoulders relaxed slightly. "His name was Little Fox," he began, his voice soft with memory. "He was 5 winters old. He could already ride like a man. He was brave and curious." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Too curious sometimes." Emma listened as Running Wolf spoke of his child, of the boy's laughter and mischief, of his wife's gentle patience. She saw the father behind the warrior, the husband behind the hardened exterior. And in his loss, she recognized her own grief different, yet somehow the same. As the sun began to set, Running Wolf helped Emma back to the cave. Her strength was returning, but slowly. Another day passed, then another. They fell into a routine Running Wolf hunting and gathering, Emma gradually taking on small tasks as her body healed. They spoke little, but the silence between them grew comfortable. At night by the fire, Running Wolf taught Emma words in his language. She taught him songs from her childhood. Two strangers from different worlds, finding unexpected common ground in their shared solitude. On the 5th day, Running Wolf returned from hunting earlier than usual, his expression grave. "What is it?" Emma asked, setting aside the herbs she'd been sorting. "Riders," he said tersely, "following the river. 3 men. Emma's blood ran cold. "The men who attacked me? I could not see their faces, but they ride slowly, searching. They're looking for me," Emma whispered, fear clutching at her throat. "They must think I survived somehow." Running Wolf checked his weapons, a knife at his belt, a tomahawk, a bow and arrows. "What will we do?" Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Running." Wolf looked at her, his decision already made. "We will not wait for them to find us." Night fell swiftly over the Texas wilderness. Running Wolf moved silently through the darkness, with Emma following close behind. Despite her healing injuries, she struggled to match his pace, each step sending waves of pain through her body. Still, fear pushed her forward, fear of the men searching for her. Men who would kill her without hesitation if they found her alive. "Stay low," Running Wolf whispered, guiding her through a thicket of mesquite. They had left the cave shortly after sunset, taking only what they could carry. Running Wolf's horse followed obediently, its hooves wrapped in cloth to muffle the sound. The strategy was simple but dangerous. Circle behind their pursuers, observe them, then decide how to proceed. "How much farther?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. "Not far. There's a ridge ahead. We can watch from there." The climb was arduous, Emma's broken ribs protesting with each upward step. Running Wolf noticed her struggling and offered his arm for support. She took it gratefully, trying to ignore the unfamiliar sensation of his skin against hers. At the ridge's crest, they settled behind a cluster of boulders. Below, perhaps half a mile away, a campfire flickered in the darkness. 3 men sat around, it passing a bottle between them. "Is it them?" Running Wolf asked quietly. Emma squinted, trying to make out their features in the firelight. Her heart thumped painfully as recognition dawned. "Yes," she breathed. "The tall one with the beard, he was their leader." Running Wolf studied the camp, noting the positions of their horses, their weapons. They are careless, drinking, not keeping watch. What will we do? Emma asked, unable to tear her gaze from the men who had beaten her and left her to die. Running. Wolf was silent for a long moment. We have choices. We can go now, travel through the night, put distance between us. Or, Emma prompted when he didn't continue. Or I can kill them while they sleep. The bluntness of his words startled her. Emma looked at him, his profile sharp against the night sky. Just like that. They are bad men. They hurt you. They would hurt others. His logic was simple, direct. 3 fewer evil men in the world. Emma thought of her husband, of how he'd always believed in the rule of law, in justice rather than vengeance. But what justice could there be in this wild country for a woman like her? No, she said finally. I don't want more death on my conscience. Running. Wolf nodded, respecting her decision without judgment. Then we travel east, away from the river. There is another path to the trading post. As they prepared to leave, a sudden burst of laughter rose from the camp below. Emma froze, the sound sending chills down her spine. One of the men was recounting a story, his words carrying clearly through the still night air. Double quotes. Should have face when we took her wedding ring. Crying and begging like it meant something. More laughter. Emma's hands clenched into fists, nails digging into her palms. Bet the coyotes found what was left of her by now, another voice added. Shame to waste a pretty thing like that, but she saw our faces. Running Wolf placed a steadying hand on Emma's shoulder, feeling her trembling with rage and fear. We should go, he whispered, but Emma didn't move. Something had changed in her expression, the fear replaced by a cold resolve. They'll do it again, she said quietly. To other women. Other travelers. Running Wolf watched her face carefully. Yes. They have to be stopped. Yes, Emma turned to him, her eyes glinting in the moonlight. I can't kill them, I won't, but could we take them to the authorities, to that trading post you mentioned? Running Wolf considered this. Davis has no authority. But there is a Rangers outpost a day's ride from his place. The Texas Rangers would hang them for what they did, Emma said with certainty. If we can capture them, Running Wolf reminded her. 3 armed men. Emma's mind raced, considering and discarding ideas. Then she remembered something from her childhood, watching her father treat the family's livestock. The water, she said. Suddenly, do you have herbs that could make them sleep? Something we could put in their water? Running Wolf's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Yes, I know such plants. If they're unconscious, we could bind them, take their weapons. And if they wake while we are doing this? Emma touched the knife at Running Wolf's belt. Then we do what we must. The plan came together quickly. Running Wolf knew of a plant whose roots, when crushed and mixed with water, would induce a deep sleep. He left to gather what they needed while Emma kept watch on the camp. The men below were growing increasingly drunk and careless. They had positioned their water barrels near the edge of their camp, an opportunity Emma hadn't dared hope for. When Running Wolf returned with a handful of dark roots, they set to work preparing the mixture. They must drink it all, Running Wolf explained as he ground the roots between 2 stones. Half measures will only make them sick or dizzy. How? Long before it takes effect? Not long. But we must wait until they are asleep before approaching. The hours crawled by. Emma watched as the men finally retired, 2 sprawling near the fire while the 3rd took first watch. This complicated matters, but not insurmountably. They waited for the sentry to make his rounds, which he did with predictable regularity, checking the horses before returning to stoke the fire. During one such round, Running Wolf slipped down to the camp like a shadow, emptying the powdered root mixture into the water barrel. He was back at Emma's side before the sentry returned, neither of them breathing until the man settled back by the fire. It took another hour before the sentry drank deeply from the barrel, complaining loudly about the goddamn Texas dust. 30 minutes later, he was slumped against a saddle, snoring heavily. His companions never stirred. Now, Running Wolf whispered. They approached the camp cautiously. Running Wolf with his knife drawn, Emma carrying lengths of rope they had prepared. The men were deeply unconscious, their breathing slow and heavy. One by one, they bound them, wrists, ankles, and for good measure, connecting each man to the other with a longer rope. Emma moved through the camp, collecting the men's weapons and piling them at a distance. Among their belongings, she found her wedding ring and locket, which she reclaimed with trembling hands. She also discovered a pouch heavy with coins and folded bills, money likely stolen from other victims. "They won't wake until morning," Running Wolf assured her as they finished, "and they will be weak then." They made camp a short distance away, close enough to monitor their prisoners but far enough to speak freely. The night was chilly, and they sat close to their small fire, the enormity of what they had done settling over them. "If they escape," Emma began. "They will not," Running Wolf said firmly. "I tied them as we bind buffalo. Even a strong man cannot break free." Emma nodded, trusting his skill. She turned the wedding ring over in her palm, the gold catching the firelight. "I never thought I'd see this again. It is important to you." "It was my mother's before me," Emma explained. "James placed it on my finger the day we married, just 8 months ago." Her voice caught. "We were supposed to build a life together." Running Wolf was quiet for a moment. "My wife, Morning Star, she wore shells in her hair on our wedding day. I can still hear the sound they made when she moved. You must miss her terribly. Every day." He stared into the fire. "There are moments I forget she is gone. I turn to tell her something, and the emptiness strikes me anew." Emma understood that feeling all too well. "Does it ever get easier?" Running Wolf considered this. "Not easier, different. The pain changes shape." They sat in companionable silence, two grieving souls finding unexpected solace in shared understanding. Eventually, Emma dozed off, exhaustion claiming her. Running Wolf kept watch, his eyes moving between their sleeping prisoners and the woman who had shown such unexpected courage. Morning brought new challenges. The outlaws awoke groggy and furious, cursing and threatening when they discovered their situation. The leader, a man named Silas according to his companion's shouts, fixed Emma with a murderous glare. "You're dead," he spat. "You hear me? You're already dead." Emma approached him, standing just out of reach. The fear was still there, churning in her stomach, but alongside it was something new, a steely determination. "No," she replied calmly. "I'm very much alive." "And you're going to face justice for what you've done." Running Wolf stood at her side, a silent, intimidating presence. Together, they prepared for the journey to the trading post, securing the prisoners to Running Wolf's horse. It would be slow going, but Emma didn't mind. For the first time since James's death, she felt a sense of purpose. As they set out, the Texas sun climbing high above them, Emma glanced at Running Wolf. He had saved her life, but he had given her something else too, the strength to reclaim it. The journey to Davis's trading post took 2 grueling days. Emma and Running Wolf walked alongside the horse that pulled their reluctant cargo 3-bound outlaws who alternated between sullen silence and vicious threats. The terrain was unforgiving, rocky paths giving way to dry creek beds, the July sun beating down mercilessly upon them all. "Water!" croaked Silas, the leader of the outlaws, his lips cracked and bleeding. "For God's sake, give us water." Emma glanced at Running Wolf, who nodded slightly. They had been rationing their supplies carefully, giving the prisoners just enough to keep them alive, but uncomfortable. She approached with a canteen, wary of getting too close. "Here," she said, holding it to Silas's lips. "Drink slowly." As he gulped greedily, his eyes never left hers, dark with hatred and something else that made Emma's skin crawl. When she pulled the canteen away, he spat the last mouthful at her feet. "You think you're something, don't you?" he sneered. "Playing lawman with your savage friend. When I get loose, and I will get loose, I'm gonna finish what we started by that river." Emma wiped the spittle from her skirt, refusing to show fear. "You'll hang for what you've done," she replied evenly. "To me and to others." "The youngest Outlaw, barely more than a boy really, looked up at this. "What's she talking about, Silas?" "Shut your mouth, Tommy," Silas snapped, but Emma saw an opening. She turned to the young man, noting his nervous expression. "This isn't his first time attacking a woman, is it? Or robbing travelers? How many, Tommy? How many people have died because of your group?" Tommy's gaze dropped to the ground. "I never killed nobody," he muttered. "Maybe not by your hand," Emma pressed, "but you stood by while it happened." "I said shut your mouth." Silas roared, straining against his bonds. Running Wolf stepped forward, the threat in his stance unmistakable. Silas subsided, muttering curses. Under his breath. As they continued their journey, Emma noticed Tommy watching her with something like shame in his eyes. The third outlaw, a weathered man called Hank, remained silent, his expression unreadable behind his matted beard. That night, as they made camp, Running Wolf secured the prisoners to a large oak tree, checking their bonds meticulously. "The young one," he said quietly to Emma as they prepared a meager supper. "He has doubt in his heart." Emma nodded. "I saw it too. He might be persuaded to testify against the others. If you are right, it would strengthen your case." Emma hadn't considered this, that her word alone might not be enough. She was a woman, after all, and in these parts, that often meant being less than believed. The thought of Tommy speaking up, confirming her story, gave her hope. After they had eaten, Emma approached Tommy, offering him a piece of jerky. He took it hesitantly, glancing at Silas, who appeared to be sleeping. "How old are you, Tommy?" she asked, keeping her voice low. 19, he replied after a moment's hesitation. "So young," Emma thought. "Barely older than a child. How did you come to ride with men like these?" Tommy chewed slowly before answering. "Ain't had much choice. My pay died when I was 15. Ma couldn't feed us all. Silas offered good money." He trailed off, staring at the ground. "For robbing innocent people," Emma finished for him. "It wasn't supposed to be like that," Tommy insisted. "Silas said we'd just take from rich folks, people who wouldn't miss it." But then, he broke off, glancing nervously at his companions. "Then it changed," Emma supplied. Tommy nodded miserably. "I wanted to leave, but Silas said he'd kill me if I tried." Emma believed him. There was a genuineness to his remorse that couldn't be faked. "It's not too late to do the right thing, Tommy. When we reach the Rangers, you could tell them what happened. Tell them everything. They'd hang me too. Not if you help bring these men to justice. The law looks more kindly on those who cooperate." Tommy fell silent, considering her words. Across the campfire, Running Wolf watched the exchange, his expression unreadable. The next morning brought the welcome sight of smoke on the horizon. Davis's trading post at last. As they approached, Emma felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. Soon, Running Wolf would deliver her to this place, and they would part ways. The thought left an unexpected hollow feeling in her chest. Davis's trading post was a sturdy log structure surrounded by a few smaller outbuildings. A corral held several horses, and smoke rose from the chimney. As they drew near, a bearded man emerged, a shotgun held casually in his hands. "That's far enough," he called, eyeing the strange procession warily. Running Wolf raised his hand in greeting. "Davis, it is Running Wolf." Recognition dawned on the trader's weathered face. "Running Wolf? Been a while." His gaze shifted to Emma and the bound men. "What in tarnation have you got here?" "Criminals," Running Wolf stated simply. "They attacked this woman, left her for dead." Davis lowered his shotgun slightly, looking Emma over with newfound interest. "That so? And you're planning to do what with them exactly?" "Take them to the Rangers," Emma said, stepping forward. "I understand there's an outpost a day's ride from here." Davis scratched his beard thoughtfully. "There is. Captain Fletcher and his men. They pass through here every couple weeks too." He glanced at the sky. "In fact, they're due tomorrow or the next day." Relief washed over Emma. "Would you be willing to hold these men until then? We can pay." She indicated the pouch of stolen money they had recovered. Davis considered this, then nodded. "Got a root cellar with a strong door. That should hold them, he grinned suddenly. Always happy to help the law, especially when it pays. With Davis's help, they transferred the prisoners to the cellar. Tommy went quietly, while Silas and Hank required more forceful persuasion. Once they were secured, Davis offered Emma and Running Wolf the use of a small cabin behind the main building. "Ain't much, but it's clean," he said, leading them to the simple structure. "Got a wash basin, too. Reckon you could use it after your travels." Emma thanked him gratefully. The prospect of clean water and a real roof overhead seemed like unimaginable luxury after days on the trail. As Davis left them, Emma turned to Running Wolf, suddenly awkward. "I can't thank you enough," she began. "For saving my life, for helping me bring these men to justice." "No thanks are needed," he interrupted. "You have courage. You would have found a way without me." Emma shook her head. "No, I wouldn't have. I would have died by that river." Running Wolf's gaze was steady, penetrating. "What will you do now, after the Rangers come?" It was a question Emma had been avoiding. Her original plan to reach San Antonio seemed hollow somehow, a journey without purpose. "I don't know," she admitted. "My cousin in San Antonio, she's my only family now. But I barely know her." Running Wolf nodded, understanding the emptiness of such a destination. "And your home? The place you left?" "Riverton has nothing for me now," Emma sighed, looking around the simple cabin. "Truth is, I don't know where I belong anymore." "This is something I understand," Running Wolf said quietly. "Since losing my family, I have walked between worlds, not fully belonging to either." They stood in silence, two souls adrift, connected by circumstance and something deeper neither could quite name. The next day passed in anxious waiting. Emma bathed and washed her clothes, grateful for the simple comforts Davis's trading post offered. Running Wolf kept largely to himself, though Emma noticed him watching her from time to time with an expression she couldn't decipher. In the afternoon, Emma visited Tommy in the cellar, bringing him water and food. Silas glared hatefully from the corner where he sat bound, but she ignored him, focusing on the young outlaw. "Have you thought about what I said?" she asked Tommy quietly. He nodded, his young face serious. "I'll do it. I'll tell the Rangers everything. About the other travelers too, the ones before you." Relief flooded through Emma. "Thank you, Tommy." It was nearly sunset when the sound of approaching horses reached them. Emma stepped outside to see a group of 6 men riding toward the trading post, their badges catching the fading light. "Texas Rangers," Davis greeted them heartily, clearly well acquainted with the leader. A stern-faced man he addressed as Captain Fletcher. Emma stood nervously by the cabin, waiting for an appropriate moment to approach. Running Wolf appeared at her side, a silent source of strength. When Davis pointed in their direction, Emma straightened her shoulders and walked forward, Running Wolf a step behind her. "Ma'am," Captain Fletcher said, tipping his hat. His gaze flicked to Running Wolf, his expression revealing nothing. "Davis tells me you have some business with the Rangers." "Yes, Captain," Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "My name is Emma Whitfield. Those men in the cellar attacked me, beat me, and left me to die by the river 5 days ago. They robbed me of everything I had." Fletcher's eyes narrowed. "Serious accusations, Mrs. Whitfield." "One of them, Tommy, is willing to confess," Emma continued. "Not just to my attack, but to others." The captain's interest visibly sharpened. "Is that so?" "We've had reports of travelers gone missing along that stretch of river." He glanced at Running Wolf. "And your friend here?" "He saved my life," Emma said simply. "Found me half dead and nursed me back to health. Then he helped me capture these men." Fletcher studied Running Wolf with new respect. "That true, mister?" Running Wolf nodded once, dignified in his silence. "Well," Fletcher said after a moment, "let's have a talk with these outlaws of yours." The next few hours passed in a flurry of activity. Tommy, true to his word, provided a full confession, detailing not only Emma's attack, but 3 previous robberies that had ended in murder. Silas and Hank maintained sullen silence, but the evidence against them was damning. We'll take them to Fort Worth for trial, Fletcher informed Emma as his men prepared to depart. With the boy's testimony, they'll hang for sure. He hesitated, then added, "The court will want your testimony too, Mrs. Whitfield. Can you be in Fort Worth in 2 weeks' time?" Emma nodded. "I'll be there, Captain." As the Rangers rode away with their prisoners, the setting sun painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds, Emma felt a strange mixture of closure and uncertainty. Justice would be served, but what then? Where would she go? What would she do? She turned to find Running Wolf watching her, his dark eyes thoughtful. "It is done," he said quietly. "Yes," Emma agreed. "Thanks to you." Running Wolf shook his head. "Thanks to us both." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. Finally, Running Wolf spoke again. "I must return to my people soon," he said. "But first, I would see you safely to your destination." Emma looked at him, this man who had become more than a rescuer, a friend, a companion in grief, someone who understood the emptiness of loss and the difficult path of rebuilding. "I've been thinking about that," she said slowly. "Davis mentioned he needs help with the trading post, that he trades fairly with both settlers and native people." She paused, gathering her courage. Perhaps this is where I'm meant to be for now, a place between worlds." Running Wolf considered this, his expression softening. "You would stay here? If Davis will have me," Emma nodded. "At least until I figure out what comes next." "And your cousin in San Antonio?" "I can write to her, let her know I'm safe." Running Wolf nodded slowly. "It is a good place. Davis is a fair man. Will you—" Emma hesitated, uncertain how to phrase the question. "Will your people come here to trade?" A hint of a smile touched Running Wolf's lips, from time to time. In that moment, Emma understood that this wasn't an ending but a beginning. Not the life she had planned with James, but a new path, unexpected, challenging, and somehow right. "Then perhaps our paths will cross again," she said softly. Running Wolf looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, Emma saw hope in his eyes, the same fragile hope she felt stirring in her own heart. "I believe they will, Emma Whitfield," he replied. "I believe they will." As night fell fully over the trading post, Emma and Running Wolf walked back to the cabin together, two survivors who had found in each other not just salvation, but the courage to begin again.